All right, we're gonna get started. How's everybody doing? Yeah? Yeah, it's a bit like silent disco, being on headphones and responding to that. My name is Sharif, I work at Atlan. I'm thrilled to just quickly introduce Sherri, and the star of the show, who's a leader in data governance at GM and a visionary on data governance overall. But I'll start by quickly going through some of this and diving right in. Domain-driven governance in the AI era. And we are really in the AI era. I was counting during the keynote this morning how many times AI or agent was mentioned. Any guesses as to how many times? Yeah, too many, that's the form of guessing. 180 roughly is where I got to, so about once per minute. So we are in that era. But we are not all the way to being AI native. In our experience working with customers, we're sort of in this AI curious stage where there's a lot of experimentation, a lot of investment, but we're still in this paradigm of humans thinking, when should I go leverage AI in this workflow? We're not yet fully at a place where agents are thinking, I should probably go loop in a human at this part of my workflow. And the reason we're not quite there yet is that 3 out of 4 pilots fail to make it to production. Nearly 50% of pilots are abandoned entirely at the pilot stage. Why? Why does this happen? This is actually not a quote from, it's almost identical to what Jamie Dimon said this morning. This is a quote from a CIO at one of our customers, but we hear effectively this very often, which is, the things that we thought would be hard, the technology, the LLMs, getting people to adopt a new form of technology, were actually very easy. The CDO of one of our companies that we work with said, we did a hackathon and we had 3 teams create 3 bots in 2 hours. This is like creating dashboards or easier. So that's not the problem. The problems were things that we thought would be easy because we figured them out in the classical analytics pipeline context. What are those things that are really hard? There are 3 hurdles, and they keep you on the left side of what we are calling the AI value chasm. Where on the left side, you have all this experimentation, but no scaled business value. And nothing really makes it across to the other side, where you're now putting AI into production, and it's actually delivering on all the investments you've made. We've tackled this chasm with a lot of companies, including GM, but overall customers, including MasterCard, who spoke this morning, many others, totaling over 10 trillion in enterprise value. The point of this is we've seen it enough for the last few years in enough industries that we feel like there's patterns we can call out. The first pattern is summed up in this quote. I have 1,000 AI use cases in my roadmap, but I don't even know where to start because I don't even know what data I have, who owns it, where it is, how it's connected. That is a data context problem. The second is summed up in this quote from the CIO of an investment firm, where TAM is a really important definition if you're investing. It might mean 100 things on the open internet, but at our company, it means a very specific metric definition of total addressable market. AI can understand language, but it doesn't understand meaning yet. So meaning is the second big hurdle. The third hurdle is captured in this quote from one of our customers. I'm okay with an HR chatbot using payroll data, but nothing else using payroll data. How can I be truly sure when I productionize AI that that will never happen? These 3, data, context, meaning, governance, form what we call the context bridge. That if you solve these 3, you can actually put AI into production. How do you build this context bridge? There's a few foundational things you need to do. The first thing we do is unify from all systems all of the context that already exists. This includes systems like Unity Catalog, where they've surfaced more and more technical metadata that we can stitch into the overall metadata control plane. But it also includes semantic layers, glossaries, business meaning metadata. It also includes policy metadata. So much context still lives in spreadsheets, still lives in Confluence and Jira. How do you bring all of that unified in one place across systems? Then on top of that, you need to collaborate to get everything that's still in human heads and isn't yet captured in a system. That collaboration happens around purpose-built data products or AI products. And then finally, activating it everywhere. It's awesome if you can activate it in your development workflow, in your particular bot you're building on, let's say, Databricks Genie. But how do you activate that where people are working every day on every team, in the BI tools, in Slack, in ServiceNow, in GitHub? How do you activate it everywhere? These three layers are how we have built Atlan. We've built it on top of a metadata lakehouse so that it's future-proof. It's iceberg native. You are not locked in. That metadata can be used by whatever compute engine you want. On top of that open metadata lakehouse, we've built for unification connectors and an open connector framework. We connect hundreds of systems, including a GM. Sherri will talk about this shortly, how we were able to connect across a lot of different systems to pool all of that metadata. We talked about collaboration that happens in catalog, yes, and Atlan classically has a very powerful catalog, but also in glossary with business users, also in our policy and compliance center with stewards and legal teams. And then finally, activation. We pioneered activating metadata so that if you're in GitHub and you're gonna push something that might break something downstream, Atlan notifies you of that in GitHub and prevents the push. All of those different ways metadata needs to actually show up, context needs to show up. To hear about how that's all happening at GM, I'm very excited to pass it over to Sherri.
Thank you.
Give it up.
Thank you, guys. Everyone can hear me? Just a couple nods. Perfect. So I'm Sherri Adame. I work as the Enterprise Data Governance Lead at General Motors. I started with them 2 years ago, and I have cross-industry experience. So I have experience within healthcare as well as banking, which is highly regulated, and a large distribution company, billion-dollar distribution company, which what I would say was like medium regulations. So I understand the spectrum of what's required from governance, and we find ourselves in a really pivotal time within General Motors. Just a small company that's been around for like over 100 years, like a lot going on here. But really we're focused on zero crashes, zero emissions, and zero congestion. So that is putting the right automation in place so that your vehicle is intelligent, so that you can avoid congestion, so that we're not having emissions out into the environment that we so very much love, and that we can always prevent crashes before they happen. That's our main goal. And of course, if you think about that, that is underlying with a lot of data. So we see GM transforming from being just a manufacturing company to being more like a software development company that is driven by data level decisions. So when I started at GM, there was an enterprise data governance team that was there, and they were doing some very specific things like within the warranty space. But I realized the philosophy at GM was like, we need to be faster time to market. We need to be agile, we need to be nimble. And when we looked across the organization, what we saw was the data culture. Some pockets were good, right? I can't say everybody was bad, but some pockets were not so good too. And our culture was really lagging behind what we needed to be in order to become agile, nimble, and have faster time to market. So we focus on three things. We focus on shifting left and then activating, collaborating, and unifying our governance approach so that we can embed it end to end within the engineering pipelines and the engineering teams that we work with. So what does that mean? So we shift left. So instead of waiting till data is in production to fully articulate on it and enrich the metadata, we are moving to the front of the development life cycle and not being reactive anymore, so that we can capture and enrich our metadata right up front and be proactive with our data governance processes. And this allows us then to, there it is, to do data classification, really understand what policies are required, get the metadata, all the metadata that we need to um, govern it from the moment that it hits production. So that's what we're focusing on. We do that with both process deliverables and technical solutions. So process deliverables, I think in the governance space is probably what's most mature, right? Like everybody has a charter and talks about the process that we should have around governance. So coming up with that was easy, but really because we wanted to be proactive, we couldn't now have manual processes anymore. We needed to have automated processes that allow us to act quickly on data, make quick decisions, govern it, and then release it to production. So we focused on the 6 tools that you see here. So metadata management is at the core. We have our own internal metadata management repository that we snap to our GitHub, where we collect protobuf and YAML files. We ingest them, parse them, and then expose them out to our data catalog, which is Atlan. We have a data quality platform we just rolled out this year that is exploiting the value of some of the metadata that we're collecting to generate rules right from the metadata itself. We also use Atlan to expose our data lineage. So when you think about Unity Catalog, you can see lineage in there too, but Atlan's breadth and depth allows us to expose lineage in a better way for the use cases that we have. We also have a data access platform that allows us to, again, use the metadata and the data classification that we've applied to our data elements to deploy data policies to obfuscate, omit, or obscure data that is PI related. We're rolling out a data mesh approach. So we spent a lot of time. It took us 1.5 years to agree a set of domains that would work for our organization. And we partner very closely with our Databricks team to roll out the right workspaces, accounts, and catalogs around these domain concepts. We are telling everyone you have to be in the mesh to say that your data is governed. And the cool thing about GM is I work for a VP who very much believes in data governance. So he is telling everybody the exact same message. He is telling them, in order to be within our environment, you have to have all of your stuff governed. So no longer am I chasing people saying you have to do this. They're coming to our team and we're saying this is how you do it. And then when we talk about collaborating, we work across the spectrum of the software development lifecycle. So in the beginning, there's a question of, should we do this? We have a product management team that collects those requirements, just takes us through that first phase of, are we gonna build this? Are we not gonna build this? And it has that go, no-go decision. Once we know it's a go, it's been prioritized, we have the funding to back it, it gets sent to the development teams. And then the development teams take it in. We've provided a definition of ready and a definition of done for features to our product management team that tell them what the expectations are from a governance perspective. Then when they're through their testing, if it's a service or an application, we're collecting from them their protobuf or YAML files so that we can ingest them into our metadata repository, certify the metadata, and then also expose it to the catalog so we can see the metadata before it actually reads the metadata for the data, have it classified before it actually reaches production. We're also in the second half of this year going to deploy data contracts in the same way. We're using the open contract format. We've POC'd that several times. It's essentially the same process. It's a metadata specification or standard that's articulated in a YAML file by the engineering teams. We ingest and we'll expose it to Atlan. And now you have one pane of glass where you can see all of the data across your environment. And then from there, by the time we get to production, we've already had several interactions with the engineering teams. Everything's classified. We've exposed it to the new data quality platform that we have. And when the data hits production, we already have the policies deployed to protect it appropriately. So the last piece, so we activated with the domains, we're collaborating across development, and then we're really unifying our teams within Atlan. So Atlan is our single pane of glass. You might think we just have Databricks, but no, of course not, right? Very big company. We also have Snowflake. We also have Google Cloud Platform. We're currently onboarding Snowflake this year into our environment. We've started the conversations with the teams that have unstructured data sets that are in Google Cloud. We'll be onboarding those in the next couple of months. And we're really looking at doubling or tripling the things that we've been doing last year and into this year. So for us, Atlan really solves that equation. It also hooks up to Slack. So every domain that we have has a Slack channel where you can actually, from the Atlan interface, be able to Slack and ask questions about data. And then for us, we're cracking the nut on discovery. So we're fully embedded within technical data stewardship space. Second half of this year, we're pushing back to the product management teams to find out who are the business stewards that can come in and articulate another level of context on the metadata that we have. But within the catalog, we already measure against our metadata standard. So we've gamified it. So teams can go in, when they articulate on their metadata, their score increases. And we tell them that they have a minimum score of 80, we want them all to get. And it could be like various ways you get to that score of 80. But when they hit the score of 80, we know they've hit at least the minimum metadata standard. So we have 3 minutes. That's really my whole story. Any questions?